Hello everybody, welcome back to the James Allcott channel. Let me start off this video by saying screw you, Gareth Southgate. Win a couple of games, get through this Nations League, and then I don't have to do this. I don't have to do a video on my holiday. I'm currently in the Costa del none of your business, guys. Am I right? But we do need to talk. We need to talk about Gareth Southgate. We need to talk about the whole situation. This is becoming a series, isn't it? I've done a lot of my problems, but I've not done my problem with Gareth Southgate. I've done my problem with any other person or thing more than Gareth Southgate, which is odd, isn't it? But I had a moment of clarity last night. Obviously, 3-3 it was. I want to say 3-2. I was watching the game, incredibly invested because I want him to do well. But I don't think I've ever been around a situation where you have a fan base that's as divided when it comes to the manager. And I think there's a lot of reasons for it. And when I'm doing videos, I'm willing to change my mind. And I think I probably have changed my mind on Gareth Southgate. So that's what I kind of want to talk about. Because there is a problem with him. There is a ceiling to the way that he plays. And I was chatting to Lawrence over text, who's got an amazing channel that you need to go and subscribe to. It's called Lawrence McKenna. Very easy. Just go and find it and click the button. He's a good lad. He makes good videos and they're interesting. Anyway, we were chatting. And it's one where I'm one of the guys who've always been behind Southgate. And I continue to be behind him. I'm actually very proud of him. And I think he should be very proud of what he's achieved. But what gets you from A to B will not always get you from B to C. And the moment of clarity that I've had with him is that everyone's right. I think everyone is right. Because there's such a body of work and evidence that can be spun in either favour of, I like Gareth Southgate, look what he's done, semi-final, final. Yesterday was a bit of a sort of microcosm of him and his style of play, because for a long period of time it was difficult, and the way that he wants to play, it is grating. He is a realist and he plays tournament football and he practices tournament football in the lead up to it, right? And so when it becomes that, it becomes about moments. It becomes having space in front of you as opposed to having a bit of possession. It's about having bodies behind the ball, and this is not sexy stuff. And I think initially when you're trying to put together a team and you're trying to stay in tournaments, if you're not conceding, then you're all right? And so that's the road that we went down. And in terms of sort of pressure points or weak areas of the squad, weak areas have been the centre-back situation, maybe, and it's been, it's raining, so hopefully that sound's not too bad. The centre-back situation, so you put a few more bodies there. You defend a little bit deeper, you don't press as much. All of these things are grating, they are annoying to England fans. But again, we've got to a final, we've got to a semi-final. And again, people are going to go, well, you had a lucky this, you had a lucky that. That's where I get a bit frustrated. It's like, at what point do you give this man some credit? But I'm going in circles there because I think I've spoken about that in the past a few times. My point is that being frustrated with the way that Southgate plays and wanting it to be better, want it to be better for that first 70 minutes of that game yesterday is completely valid. So anyone who has that feeling, I think it's fair for you to feel that way. And it's fair for you to think that Southgate is maybe not the guy that could get us over the line. Like, it will all come out in the wash, won't it? We'll all find out at the World Cup. But I think the thing I always get a bit sort of gutted about is that we can't kind of all stick together with it. Because for me, obviously, I have QPR, but in this sphere, at this, on this stage, being an England fan is such an exciting thing. And so I want us to all be sort of together, and I think we've all felt that with our different fan bases when it is feeling right, and it's not feeling right, is it? I think we all know this, right? We all know going into the World Cup. Everyone I've spoken to has said, "I haven't got the best feeling about Qatar," and that is because of the way that we play, and the way that we play is not that enjoyable. What is good is that last 20 minutes. And this sort of, there'll be so much discussion about players that are in, players that are out. It'll all be on my channels, so hit subscribe. And also about formations and things like that. But the thing with formations is about, and I tweeted about this, it's about mindset. This a sort of a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3. It's all down to the mindset of the players. And if the players bomb on, play on the front foot, have that positivity, like we saw in that last 20 minutes, where what I did really like is that is a group of players, and obviously there's going to be casualties and players that aren't involved who are frustrated, but overall that is a squad of 20 odd that really appreciate Southgate. Because there's another thing I want to talk about in a second that is, I think, is very pertinent here, and is the thing actually I want you to comment about. So we'll talk about that in a second. But the reaction was impressive. You know, Mason Mount and Saka was fantastic. But even what I noticed as well is that Germany was sort of flailing, right? They were tiring, and it was a proper English centre midfield. You know, Rice running around, mashing up people. Bellingham reading the play, winning the ball with those lovely long legs, then driving, playing a pass. Reece James all of a sudden higher up the pitch. All of that is about being on the front foot, and that is what Southgate has to bottle. He does. You know, another thing I sort of tweeted about was about something that Luis Enrique spoke about, which was sort of having your favourites. He was saying, I'm not really bothered about what people are doing for their club right now. I'm bothered about what people are doing for the national team in the current form. Sorry, I'm moving about here because I just want to make sure you can hear me properly. And with that comes the sort of thoughts on Maguire, who in sort of general play I thought was really good, and I think has been good on the Friday game and the Germany, it's the game in the Germany game, but in those key moments he's been undone. And I was listening to the game on the radio and watching it silently on the stream, so just hearing the commentary on the radio. Honestly, the switch up in the media narrative and the roads that they go down are not consistent, and it's a little bit embarrassing. And you could hear it in the voices, the excitement that Maguire had given away the penalty, and you know, the second goal, him giving the ball away. Sure, that's not his. That second goal is not his fault. There's a long way to go, and the guy picks it out and pops it in the top corner, Havertz. So that's not about Maguire. So YouTube's so important because you can cut through a lot of this nonsense, in my opinion. And the clarity again that I had was that, which I spoke about in an initial video of what I wanted. I wanted to know what he wants to do. I know what he wants to do now. Do I totally agree with it? I don't. I actually think we need to be braver, because when we were on the front foot with more bodies, I think there were more options and we weren't getting overrun. First half we were getting overrun. But what happens when you do have an extra body further forward is that you leave spaces in behind, and he wants to go with the other way around. He would rather go into extra time 0-0 than have the opportunity of winning the game 3-0. And that is something that I think every fan is allowed to dislike, and therefore be a guy who's like, I just don't really enjoy what Southgate's doing here. I think we've got an amazing generation of players, and we need more. And I think that's fair. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't want anyone thinking, oh, he's just blind, like staunch Southgate in. Really not. I just think for me it's about fairness. And yesterday was interesting because I think for 70% of the game, one side is correct, because it wasn't great. It wasn't great, with the names that are on that pitch and the names that you got on the bench. But that last 20 minutes spoke a lot as well about, you know, what can be done and what this team is capable of. And I found that fascinating. And I think what's interesting as well is that often we get a bit bored in the international breaks, because you've got the Nations League, which is like, apparently no one cares about, but then all of a sudden, you know, we're relegated and we have an embarrassing relegation in a group that's got Italy and Germany in it. Like, it's incredibly hyperbolic. And we have to talk about it. The last thing this is what I want comments on. I'm fascinated by this. And again, the problem is that I'm putting a criteria forward here that you guys might not like, but this is how I feel about it. I think to not have an English manager, when we are England, we are the guys that made the game, the guys that have this history, the guys that have the richest league, the guys that have, you know, a whole identity around this sport. For us not to be capable to provide an English manager to take over from Gareth Southgate, be it if the World Cup goes well or bad, or there is just that feeling of it's time for a change. Who is that English manager? That is something that will probably keep Southgate in a job as long as he can deal, you know, with the pressure of, you know, a lot of people not feeling him, which I think people have made their mind up on anyway. I don't think anyone's going to move towards my like middle ground, right? Like, if you got right and left, a sort of feeling on Southgate, out or in, I'm kind of in the middle here, where I feel like if the World Cup's not great and the performances aren't great, I think you actually need a manager who's going to play a more exciting brand of football. But in my opinion, it is diabolical if that person is not English. They have to be English, because it's just poor form, and I think it reflects terribly on our coaching system. So with that in mind, who is the next person? Will they have the composure? And my concern there is that whoever you pick, because the two real contenders would be an Eddie Howe or a Potter, they are in two long-term projects and will not be taking the England job anytime soon. And so we're then either staying with Southgate because he has the experience and has a good record in tournament football with England, or, you know, you're going to try a Lampard, or you're going to try, I'm honestly struggling after that. I'd love to hear other English names. You might disagree with that. You might think, go get Jose Mourinho because we've got money. I don't think that's right, personally. But that's just my opinion. But yeah, I have got a problem with Gareth. It's boring football. Play a 10. I'd love to see us like cut through teams because we've got the players. We do have the players. So all those critiques are completely fair. But I am proud of him. I think he has the composure he shows when a lot of people are trying to put stuff on him. I'm not sure many other people would be capable of that. And that, to me, is a high level of modern leadership. But yeah, we're off to the World Cup, which is good, isn't it? Let's remember that. And we've got one hell of a squad. Right, guys, I've got a video coming out tomorrow about predicting every Premier League club's player of the season, so make sure you check that out. And go check out the one I put out yesterday, which is the thing about every Premier League club. I'll be back very, very soon with lots of videos. So hit subscribe, hit the like button, and speak to you soon.